And let's start with the decision to bench Ricky Collins, to go Joe Filardi, and then to not go back to Ricky Collins. What do you make of what we saw Friday night?
I think it was a coaching staff that was searching for answers, and they basically took a shot at it and tried to see if they could get a spark by throwing out someone that they felt had been performing well in practice. And so the thought was, given what he's been how he's been performing in practice, that there's a hope that'll translate to the game, even though he's a freshman. And obviously it didn't work, but it's funny that a lot of those that are criticizing the move are the same that were saying you can't go back to Ricky, you have to start somebody else, it can't be worse than Ricky. Then you start somebody else, it ends up worse. And then the commentary is it was coaching malpractice not to stick with Ricky.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if you stuck with Ricky, the same people would be criticizing for sticking with Ricky, saying it can't be worse. So,
right.
It feels like, I think I've said this on the pregame show before with Gio, it feels like it's a multiple choice question where every answer is wrong. I just think that they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Who should start a quarterback? It's a trick question. Right. None of the above.
Right. Mike, you're a recruiting expert. Let me ask you a question I brought up to Steve earlier. What is a good percentage of, not closing on recruits, but where the recruit or the portal actually, the player actually pans out to be as good or if not better than what you were asking? So, is it like baseball where you're getting if you're batting 300, it's good, or should it be higher up? And when you're talking in terms of the success rate, you're talking about turns into like a starter? Yeah, starter, or just plays to a level where
key contributor.
A contributor on the team.
Man, I don't know exactly what the percentage is. It feels like the baseball analogy may work there, just because of how many you're recruiting. Like, think about Fran last year. I think their class had 30 or 35 players in it. They got 29 in it this year. So if you take 30%, roughly a third, then your 10 to 12 of your players are legitimate contributors, starter caliber players, so to speak. If you have, 10 to 15 players each recruiting class that are starting caliber, then by the time those players, assuming they all stay or most stay, you get 4 years in, you've got 50 to 60 players that are starting caliber. And then, of course, you can fill that out with other players from the transfer portal, et cetera. Maybe that rate's even a little bit high, but the problem is now it's so hard to tell what's a hit and what's not, because of how many players leave after a year or two, and you didn't really get to fully develop those guys. So it's a real tough thing to just put a specific number on, but I think somewhere around that 1/3 rate is probably reasonable.
Would you say the portal should be higher?
Yes, I think it depends on how many years of eligibility they have left. Like, I think if you've got guys with 3 or 4 years of eligibility left, maybe you can be a little bit more lenient with those guys in terms of how long it takes them to become a starting caliber player. Whereas the guys that you bring in that only have 1 or 2 years left, I think you're bringing those guys in with the intent that they're going to be a significant contributor. So if they're not, I think that hurts you more. At the same time, they're only taking up a scholarship for a year or two. So you have a chance to move on and go in another direction a little bit sooner, unless you kind of, tell the guy that has multiple years left, hey, perhaps you should go in another direction after this season. I don't know that there's a hard and fast answer to it. I think you're probably trying to get as close to 50% as you can.
I know I said that it's a trick question, who should start a quarterback, but I'm going to ask you that question. Who should start a quarterback against Miami? I think you can make a case, right, for both sides. You can make a case for Ricky, that he gives you the best chance to win. You can make a case for one of the younger guys, like, why not? Like, those guys are young, and Ricky's not going to be there next year, so why not see what you have with the freshmen? What do you think? If you were Fran Brown, what would you do going into Miami?
Oh, it's again, feels like every answer is wrong, but part of me wants to lean towards throwing Ricky back out there just because of the opponent and the environment. Is it really fair to throw a true freshman, whether it's Luke Carney, who doesn't have a start yet, but has played a little bit, to throw him into a game against the Miami team on the road that wants to avenge their loss to you from last year, even though they've had some struggles in recent weeks? You have to figure they're going to be eager to put last week's, this past loss behind them. So do you get a better version of Miami than you otherwise would have? I'm not sure that's a fair situation to put a true freshman into, whether it's making his first start or Joe Filardi coming in and making his second start after the first one didn't go so well. Miami's better than North Carolina by a lot in every aspect. So if you go against North Carolina and you really struggle on both sides of the ball, you would figure the next week it's going to be a real struggle to make that game competitive. So is it fair to put the true freshman in that spot? I almost think you're better off throwing Ricky back out there. Even though the offense wasn't great, it was better when he was out there than what we saw this past week. So maybe you throw him out there since he does have a handful of starts under his belt and just say, let's see what you can do and hope that it pays off for you.
All right, let's quickly talk some basketball here with the opener being tonight. What do you?
I do have one more football question. It's a good question from the chat. Mike, why do you think they aren't allowing Carney to throw the football?
I don't know. He did throw the first game that he came in. I think it was the Pitt game. He did throw one or two passes, but Fran Brown has said after that game, how much of the offense can you run with him? And he said not much. Now, is that because he doesn't know much of it? Is that because they're limited based on what they think about his arm right now? Not 100% sure, but I think if they felt that it would be beneficial and give them a better chance to win to let Luke Carney throw the ball downfield, then they would do that. But they seem to be, for whatever reason, again, we don't see practice, we don't know, but they don't seem to be willing to let that happen yet.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought it up, Paulie, even that first down pass against Pittsburgh, they rolled him out. It was a short pass. They took him out on a 3rd and 9. They obviously don't feel comfortable him throwing the football. Let's move on to basketball. We only have a couple of minutes here, Mike, but what are you looking to see from the opener tonight that maybe you didn't see in the 2 exhibition games?
Control of the game throughout. I want to see a game that you win comfortably, that you sort of get out fast, don't allow Binghamton to hang around. They're not a good team. They had a losing record last year. They were 5-12 on the road last year. I think ESPN's matchup predictor has Syracuse at a 95% chance to win, but don't make this like Lemoyne and the Youngstown States of last year where it's, a nail biter down the stretch. If you've really taken a step forward and this is really a tournament team, to me, this is a game you come out, you win comfortably, you win by, 25, 30 plus points and make a statement that, hey, we are a little bit different than last year.
And then lastly, what's your biggest concern about this team? Outside shooting came up. I mean, the fact that they lost the rebounding battle against Pace, is that a concern? Free throw shooting? What's your biggest concern with this team?
To me, it's defensively. The fact that Pace shot a high percentage for a chunk of that game, and they gave up some late 3-point shots to Buffalo. I want to see them put a full game defensively together against, on paper, what is an inferior opponent, and completely control the game from the onset. Offensively, I think they're going to be fine. I think there's enough talent there, but I want to see some things defensively that will theoretically translate to the rest of the season and show me that they're different on that end of the floor than what they've been the last couple of years.
All right, Mike, we do have to run, but we'll see you on the TV side of things tonight, 7 to 7:30 on News Channel 9.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Mike McAllister joining us here on the show.
And I get the homer tag a lot. But I will say this. I would like to see a 40-minute performance out of an Adrian Autry team.
Yeah.
You can probably count them on one hand where you saw them go out and just dominate from beginning to end of a game or play. I'd say UNC year 1, Oregon year 1. Other than that, it's been, let's see it.
And we know that it does matter. They got to keep their foot on the gas tonight. No letting up, no letting a 18-point lead, go down to 4. You got to keep your foot on the gas. You got to win by a lot. They know this, and let's see them go out there and do it. We've got to take a timeout. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next on ESPN Radio.